Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're the show that digs through, well, just mountains of information to bring you the stuff that's genuinely fascinating, surprising, and really essential. Today, we're zeroing in on a slice of Tokyo that, honestly, most guidebooks barely mention, yet is packed with centuries of incredible, often, completely overlooked history. We're talking about Oomori and Kamata. They're down in Tokyo's southeast, facing Tokyo Bay. It's a place that was once, believe it or not, a buzzing center of ancient life, then industry, even national turning points. So, okay, let's unpack this. For you, we've put together a deep dive into Oomori and Kamata, uncovering its captivating historical stories and the kind of hidden gems you can still track down today.
That's exactly it. Our goal here is to really explore how these ancient settlements, these big industrial booms, and some major cultural shifts have all woven together to shape this unique area. It's about connecting that deep past to what's happening right now. We've drawn from, well, a really fascinating stack of local archives, detailed historical accounts, and even some contemporary guides to try and paint a vivid picture for you.
Okay, so let's rewind way back, before any skyscrapers. We're thinking prehistoric Japan. Picture this. It's 1877. That's Meiji 10. Japan's in this whirlwind of modernization opening up. And there's this American zoologist, Edward S. Morse, on a train. He looks out the window and spots something. Well, completely unexpected. A railway cutting has exposed these massive layers of shells. He actually stops the train. What happened next was pretty revolutionary.
Yeah, it's fascinating. Morse's sharp eye right there led directly to Japan's very first scientific archaeological excavation on that exact spot. This site, the Oomori Shell Mound, it's now known as the birthplace of Japanese archaeology. It's a huge deal. And the excavations, they turned up this incredible array of artifacts from the late Jōmon period. We're talking maybe 2000 to 1000 BC.
Wow, thousands of years ago. So what kind of things did they actually pull out of the ground? What did it tell them?
Oh, loads of stuff. Just heaps of shells, clams, oysters, you name it. Plus, animal and fish bones, these beautifully polished stone tools made from bone and antler, and really crucially, Jōmon pottery. This discovery just fundamentally shifted how people understood early Japanese history. It proved people were living right by the sea, using its resources, expertly for millennia. It showed this deep connection to the environment that wasn't fully appreciated before. It's also kind of interesting because Morse wasn't super precise about the exact spot initially. Both Oda Ward and Shinagawa Ward actually have monuments to the discovery today. They've both done their own digs since, finding more stuff.
And the amazing part is, this isn't just stuck in history books. For you visiting today, this ancient history isn't just text. You can literally step into the spot where Japanese archaeology began. We mean Himori-Kazuka Historical Park.
Right. It's this lovely, quiet, green space tucked away in a residential area. It gives you this really special chance to connect with that deep history. You can actually look down into a display pit and see the shell layers like ancient meals stacked up. And they have a reconstructed pit dwelling, so you can sort of imagine Jōmon life. It kind of makes you wonder, doesn't it? In a city as hectic as Tokyo, how often do you get a chance to just stand somewhere and feel this quiet, direct link to ancestors from thousands of years ago? It gives you this sense of depth you don't usually find at typical tourist spots, and it's easy enough to find near Morikazuka Station, or just a walk from Yumarimachi Station.
Okay, so moving forward a bit in time, the area's location, right on the old Tokaido Road, meant constant traffic, constant movement. But that also brought challenges, especially with the Rokugo River, now called the Tama River. It had a bit of a reputation.
Oh, it definitely did. They called it a violent river, and apparently it earned the name. Back in 1600, Tokugawa Ieyasu ordered a bridge, the Rokugo Ohashi, but floods just kept destroying it. After a really big one in 1688, they basically gave up on rebuilding. For like almost 2 centuries, people had to rely on ferries to get across, right up until the Meiji era. You can actually see it depicted in that famous ukiyo-e print by Hiroshi Kawasaki Rokugo Watashi. It really captures what that ferry crossing must have been like.
Brings it to life, yeah. I wonder, though, with the river being so notorious, was there much, grumbling about having to use ferries for so long after the bridge was abandoned? People must have been relieved when modern bridges finally came along.
You have to imagine it was a major inconvenience, yeah. It certainly cemented the river's reputation. But eventually, modern engineering caught up. A strong steel Rokugo bridge went up in 1925. That, plus the Kihin National Road, which is Route 15, now became this absolutely vital artery for the area's economy. Even earlier, the Keihan Electric Railway, now Kikyu, built its own wooden bridge nearby for streetcars back in 1901. And for centuries, logs were floated down the Tama River to Rokugo and Haneda. Shows how economically tied the area was to the river.
If you think about the bigger picture, this whole bridge saga, the failures, the ferries, the final success, it's kind of a mini story of Japan itself, right? Moving from feudal ways and reliance on traditional transport to building the big modern infrastructure it needed.
And what's really cool is that even though the original bridge is gone, its story isn't totally erased. You can still find traces of it. You definitely can. The actual pillars and even the gates from that old Rokugo bridge, they're preserved in Miyamadare Rikuji Park in Oda Ward. And over on the Kawasaki side of the current bridge, you can find monuments to the ferry crossing itself, and one commemorating the Meiji Emperor crossing there. Shows even the imperial family used this important route. These little markers, they're subtle, but they let you pause and think about all the journeys, the sheer importance of this crossing for connecting Edo, later Tokyo, with the rest of Japan.
Then things really started changing with the railways. Oomori Station opened way back in 1876. That's only 4 years after Japan's first ever railway line started running. So Oomori became this surprisingly early, really quite important railway hub, especially when you think that big stations we know today like Shibuya or Shinjuku, they opened much later.
And that fantastic transport link completely changed Omori's character. It quickly blossomed into a popular resort destination. It had scenic views, seawater bathing beaches. Oomori Kaigan was actually Tokyo's first official bathing beach in the 1890s, and even hot springs. So naturally, people started building lovely villas, residential areas popped up. It just perfectly shows how crucial early infrastructure was. It could totally redefine a place, turning this farming and fishing village into a fashionable spot for leisure and living, all thanks to the train line.
Let's shift gears slightly to another industry that really defined Oomori for a long time. Nori, edible seaweed.
Ah, yes, nori. From the Edo period, right up until about, say, 60 years ago, around 1962, 63 Omori was a huge center for nori cultivation. The coastline from Shinagawa down to Oomori, that was the top spot in Tokyo. And Mori's methods for growing it, they actually spread all across Japan, became the standard. Sadly, like a lot of coastal industries, it eventually ended because of port development, land reclamation, progress, basically. But there's a former nori fisherman, Hiroshi Nakamura, who's now 86, and he's dedicated himself to keeping this history alive. He's a real living witness. What's kind of amazing is how this local practice, growing nori in Mori, became this national benchmark. It shows how everyday traditions can really shape things on a bigger scale until modernization changed the landscape, leaving this sort of poignant story of change.
But thankfully, that heritage isn't just a memory. You can actually get hands-on with it at the Sumori Nori no Furusato-kan, the Ori Seaweed Hometown Museum.
Oh, it's a great little museum. It really shows you the history, the tools they used. Some are designated as important, tangible folk cultural properties, really valuable stuff. They sometimes offer nori-making experiences, too. And down at the artificial beach in Oomori Furusato no Hamabi Park, they actually display real nori nets, just like they used to. There have even been recent attempts to restart some small-scale cultivation there. Shows that connection is still strong.
Nori wasn't the only thing happening on the coast, though. Jōmon was also big in katsuobushi dried bonito flakes, all through the Edo, Meiji, and Taisho periods. The shoreline was apparently lined with these factories, called sasubaho, where they smoked the skipjack tuna. Must have had a very distinct industrial smell, as they say. One guy, Matsuri Rahachi, his factory was apparently so big and impressive, they call him the Baron of Katsuobushi.
It is really interesting, isn't it, how a place can be home to these, everyday food industries and at the exact same time be the setting for these huge nation-changing historical moments. Because right around the same area, near modern Heiwa no Mori Park, back in the late Bakumatsu era, the 1850s, that's where they built the Nomori shipyard and the Nomori Daiba, which was a defensive fort. And crucially, this shipyard is where the Kennerin Maru was built in 1856. That was one of Japan's very first Western-style warships. Then, in 1860, the Kennerin Maru made history. It carried major figures like Katsukaishu, Fukuzawa Yukichi, and Nakahama Manjiro John Manjiro across the Pacific to the United States. A massive step for Japan engaging with the world, using its own ship, launched right from Oomori shores.
And for you, listening today, the Katsuobushi history isn't totally gone. You can find little reminders. Look out for Katsuobushi no Michi's path of Katsuobushi monuments or explanation boards near Oomori Kaigan, especially around Heiwa no Mori Park. You might even spot old brick chimney fragments, sort of silent reminders of that smoky past. And the Kennerin Maru. Its legacy is right there, too.
Exactly. In Oda Ward Heiwa no Mori Park, There's a monument specifically commemorating the Conran Maru's construction and that groundbreaking voyage. There are also info boards explaining the Moridaiba fort, so you get a real sense of the military importance of the area back in those turbulent times. It's a surprisingly peaceful spot now to just reflect on the beginnings of Japan's modern navy.
Okay, pushing into the Meiji era now, Mori didn't just stop evolving. It became a center for new kinds of industry and also, surprisingly, a real cultural hotspot. In 1906, the Meiji Seito Mori factory opened near the coast. This was a huge sugar refining plant. Think massive red brick buildings, tall chimneys, processing sugarcane shipped all the way from Taiwan. It really stood as a symbol of Japan's rapid industrial growth and its colonial reach at the time.
And then what's really fascinating is that after the huge Kanto earthquake in 1923, which devastated central Tokyo, Shimori became a refuge for writers and artists. They formed what became known as the Magome Literary Village. Big names like Ozaki Shiro, Unochiyo, Kawabata Yasunari, Kitahara Hakushu, they all moved here. It created this really vibrant intellectual and social scene. Apparently, it was nicknamed the Magome Broadcasting Station because ideas and gossip flowed so freely. And notably, it was a place where female writers played a really prominent role, which was quite unique for the time. This mixed the heavy industry of the sugar factory right alongside this buzzing artistic community. It's quite something. It really shows how a district can hold these almost contradictory identities at the same time, just evolving in really unexpected ways.
And again, the physical clues are still there, woven into the modern fabric of the place. You can still see these large, well-kept red brick warehouses from the Meiji Seito factory in Oomori Minami, just east of the Furusato no Hamabi Park. Some have even been cleverly repurposed, turned into cafes or offices. It creates this really interesting blend of old and new architecture. And for the literary village, you need to look a bit closer, but near Myojinyama Tenso Shrine, there's a stone relief that commemorates that whole artistic community. A little nod to that creative past.
Shimori also had this really lively social side that carried on for decades. Shimori Kaigan was known as a hanamachi, a geisha district, starting even before World War II. At its peak, apparently, there were up to 380 gaiko. That's the local term for geisha. It even saw a revival after the war. You can still feel echoes of that past in areas like Jigokudani, Hell Valley, which is the Sanokoji restaurant street. It has around 40 little eateries crammed in, and it just wonderfully keeps this distinct Showa-era vibe. And then there's the Oomori Ginza shopping street, known as Mupa. It was created back in the early Showa period, the 1930s, deliberately trying to mimic Tokyo's famous Ginza. It quickly became the area's commercial heart. It saw everything daily life before the war, the destruction during it, and then the rebuilding and bustle afterwards. These kinds of hidden corners, they really speak to the resilience of local communities, right? Holding on to their character despite all the massive changes around them. It's a genuine slice of Tokyo's evolving life.
Absolutely. And for a real taste of that living history, that authentic local feel, you really should check out the Oomori Ginza shopping street, Milpa. It's right across from Kikyu's Morimachi Station. You step inside this covered arcade, and it just feels like stepping back into the Showa era. It's got this fantastic retro atmosphere.
It really does. You'll find all sorts traditional snack shops, proper old-fashioned coffee houses, little family-run butchers, fishmongers, greengrocers. It's definitely not some polished tourist trap. It feels like a real, working, living museum of everyday Japanese life. And that's where you find those hidden culinary gems, freshly baked senbei, those savory rice crackers, or traditional sweets often made by families who've been there for generations. You get this genuine warmth and interaction that's just getting harder and harder to find in the bigger, more commercial parts of Tokyo.
So as you can probably tell by now, Shimori is just so much more than another Tokyo suburb. It really is a living archive. You can literally trace human presence right from Jōmon campfires through the smoke of Edo industries, feel the waves of Bakumatsu modernization, hear the hum of Meiji factories, and still catch the everyday rhythm of Showa life. It's all layered there.
And these hidden gems we've talked about, they aren't always big, flashy monuments. Often their real charm is in their quiet authenticity. They're waiting there for people who are willing to just slow down a bit, listen closely, maybe use a little imagination to connect with all those layers of history right under their feet.
There's this description of Jori as a place where allure and rusticity just blend together, this unique mix of the deeply local and the sort of global forces that shaped it. Make you think, doesn't it? What clues about the future of city living might we find in a place that holds on to its diverse past so effortlessly? We really hope you'll consider exploring Jōmon for yourself. Go touch the ancient shells, try to picture the Kanrin Maru setting sail, grab a coffee surrounded by old red brick buildings, or just wander down that Showa-era shopping street and see what memories you discover.